What's up, guys? Ron Harris here. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I want to talk about Natty or Not. We're all obsessed with it. We want to know, is somebody natty or not? Because there are limits to what a human body can achieve without drugs, and this varies greatly depending on the person's individual genetics. But still, those of us who've been around a very long time, like I've been around forever, I'm an old head, I'm a boomer, as you say. I know I can spot most of the time if someone's on gear immediately. But I want to show you guys some of Kenny K.O.'s clips. Kenny K.O. is a guy that has made a whole instant social media career based off asking natty or not. He's huge on YouTube. I mean, compared to me, he's got almost 950,000 subscribers. So coming up on 1 million subscribers. Derek from More Plates, More Dates has something like 4 or 5 million subscribers. Oh, I had it written down. Yeah, he's got 2.03. So I was way off, but let's look at the first one I want to show you, which was going up to a female bodybuilder in Expo who was clearly not natural, but here he goes.
Question, just because you're in a hurry, natty or not?
Natty or not?
Yes.
None of your business, natty or not.
This is true, but people would be curious to know.
Right, and I don't care what people think.
So not natty?
So none of your business.
So the question just...
Perfect answer. I mean, she's not trying to sell you anything. She's not cheating anybody. She's not competing in a drug-tested event. Why do you care? Why does it matter if she's natty or not? She's not hurting anybody. She's not trying to deceive or dupe you out of your money. Nothing like that. I feel like he was just shaming her. Like he wanted her to come out and say, "Yes, I'm on steroids. I'm on PEDs," and see what her reaction. See how she handled it. But she did what I think was she gave the perfect response. It's none of your business. Can you go up to a person, especially if you're a man, you're going up to a woman? Would you feel comfortable going up to a woman, especially with a microphone and a camera guy behind you, saying, "Are you gay, straight, or bi?" How do you think that would be received? You think they'd be cool with that and give you a straight answer like, "Oh, I'm bi," or "I'm gay," or no? They'd be like, "Are you out of your fucking mind? How dare you ask me that? How dare you?" Show you another one of this. This is a Tren twins. Obviously, they're not natural.
The cycle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, you feel me? Like Tren A's, some Deca, methyl Tren.
Over a gram per week or under?
I'm at like 2 grams right now. No,
2 grams? Oh, I was like, no way.
I'm just kidding. I'm just running a little bit of test, EQ, and Anavar. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Beginner cycle.
Pretty much. I just tore my pec. I'm not trying to tear another muscle.
And are you doing the same cycle?
No, bro. I've always taken a little bit less, but like, he's lying. I'm not. Why the f?
The crazy thing about the Tren twins interview there, I don't know which part of what that first Tren twin, I don't know the difference between them. I don't give a shit. I think they're awful for the sport, for social media. I think they're awful. Which was the lie and which was the truth? He gave his first cycle with 2 different kinds of Tren. Then he gave his second cycle, which didn't have Tren in it. And then what's that with saying, "You feel me? You feel me?" It's like a white guy saying, "You know what I'm saying?" Dude, it's just cringy to me. But anyway, I don't even know which one of the things that Tren twin said was a lie, which is the truth. Both of them were confessions of being on gear. I feel like the first thing he said was, the reaction that he got from Kenny was like, "Oh my gosh, you're on all that stuff." And then he backed off. First, he said he was on 2 grams, including 2 types of Tren. And then immediately he backtracked. No, I'm only on this and that. And I cut the video off, but they asked him about the EQ. And he said, well, the EQ is just keep my levels of, he didn't know why he was using EQ. There was nothing special about it that gave him any benefits that he was aware of. I'll show you one last clip from him because this happened to be, I was watching this and immediately I recognized a young guy from my gym that I talked to, and he's a friend of my son. They're roughly the same age. Zach's a little older, but this actually got me upset. I'll play it.
When I popped off, then you go gave me just a little bit.
Pause it. This very well could be rage bait. If it is, well done. If it is not rage bait, then this is my next favorite natty next to Sebum, and Ronnie Coleman. You know what's crazy? I'll get DMs all the time of people saying, Kenny, aren't you tired of the Natty or Not? People have moved past that. People are transparent now. They talk about their cycles. Look on your screen, motherfucker. Let me come in close for this. This dude is 0% natty. I'm almost willing to bet this is more just a transformation and him going through his cycles. But this is the problem with the fitness industry, because you have dudes like this who come in and try and set a standard, or, you know, deceive people into believing what's attainable naturally or not, and then people really don't know, and you have all these spawns of Mike O'Hearn.
So the reason that got me mad is because I know Zach Moore. He goes to my gym. He's a type 1 diabetic. I did an interview with him a couple of weeks ago. It's been about 3 weeks now, and the thing that really burned me was the video only got like 500 views. Not good at all. I made an Instagram post. I make these posts on Instagram and Facebook with links to the video. Please watch the video. I'm just trying to get more views. Obviously, that's what people are on YouTube trying to do. As a content creator, you want more views. And there were 70, right now it has 75,000 views, that post. And I think it's something like 1,000 comments where they're saying, well, the insulin means he's not natural. And they argued back and forth, and diabetics got on there, and it went on and on and on. But the point is, there were only 500 views for the video, but 75,000 views for that Instagram post for people who just clearly got really enraged at the thought that he was claiming to be natural. Let's get to your comments before I do anything ridiculous, and because I make mistakes, you guys correct me on. It's going to be a good one. Yeah, I just done training. Thank you. Your mom's flip-flopping. Deutschland. It's great. He likes it. Mom's flip-flop. The whole Natty or Not thing is basically something for people to make an excuse why they suck. Oh, yeah, I'm totally natural. Therefore, that's why I look like this, blah, blah, blah. They're insecure. Yeah, you know, a point about a lot of people seem to applaud those who are transparent and talk about all the gear they use, and people are like, you're so honest, bro, not like those liars that they'll lie and say they're natural, which if you're on drugs and you're claiming you're natural, you're a scumbag. Yeah, I'm not arguing that, guys. There are some people with awesome genetics. So knowing what somebody uses for cycle, you think that's useful and it's going to help you. It's really not. Good example. My main career, where I made a lot of money for many, many years, and I'm so bummed that career is over, was writing. And I did, I wrote mainly for muscular development, but I wrote for probably over the years, 50, 60, 100 different magazines and websites over the years. But MD was what I was known best for. I probably wrote at least 3,000 training articles for muscular development and for Muscle Mag and for Ironman over the years. I should say, when I say pro training articles, so how the pros trained. And it was usually a good body part of theirs. So, I'm just going to throw out an example. Ronnie Coleman arms. So if you read Ronnie Coleman's arm workout, or let's say you follow a video and do what he does for arms, how many people honestly think they're going to have arms that look like Ronnie Coleman, which were at least 22 inches, maybe 23 inches lean in his prime? Or take somebody with awesome legs like Branch Warren. Do you think following Branch Warren's leg routine is going to give you Branch's legs, even if you took all the same PEDs that Branch Warren did? And if you think so, you're not very bright. So you're not going to look like that. So this whole transparency thing about putting out their cycles, and there's that whole transparent, not trans podcast where he brings on people to talk about their PED use, and the higher the doses that they talk about, the more people seem to like them and approve of them because they're being honest. So the higher you say, the more you say you're using, the more approval you get, because that gives the other people who don't even look like they lift and they're probably on drugs and they still suck, it gives them a really good excuse. Like, oh, well, you could say, well, I'm not on drugs and that's why I suck. Or if I suck, it's because I'm not on enough drugs. I'm only on 1 gram a week or 2 grams a week. And all these guys, they're on 5, 6, 8 grams a week of gear and 20 IUs of growth a day. And they must be, because this guy said he is, and he's big. So everyone that looks like that guy must be on all the drugs that he's on. It doesn't work that way, guys, but let's keep going. My opinion, you either should always be honest about it or just not talk about it, like Sam. Yeah, I was giving Sam Sulek heat for a while, and now I'm actually on Team Sulek. And that's why. He never talks about his PED use. Never. Which I admire, because as popular as he is, he could probably be even a little more popular because there is that demand for it if he talked about the drugs that he uses. People would latch onto that. And I promise you, a lot of the kids out there, young guys, we're talking 13 years old all the way up to like 21 years old, they would hop on the same cycle because, oh boy, Sam just said I use gram a test, 800 milligrams of Tren. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to look just like Sam. You're not going to look like Sam. You're not going to look like any of these guys unless you have the right genetics. I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of guys start on drugs, and I've watched a lot of them over years. Very few of them ever look like anything special. Very few of them ever look like a bodybuilder that could win a contest even. They didn't even look that good, like a local show. You have to have the genetics in place first. Let's go. Still your mom's flip-flop. 100% believe making people have false expectations will increase the chance of them hopping on gear because they think they're just not good enough. They have to be on roids. Yeah, I mean, it's the expectations thing. You don't know how big you can get naturally until you try. And because there's so much genetic variation among us, guys who lift, and I found out like 99% of my audience on this channel is guys, so I'm just going to say guys. But I appreciate the couple women out there. Believe me, I'm glad you watch. I just wish there were more people in general, especially women. Some guys can get much bigger than others naturally. It's just the way it is. It's not fair. Life isn't fair. Why are some guys grow to a height of 5'2" and other guys grow to a height of 7 foot? Why? There's no answer. It's just randomness. It's the universe being random, or God, or whatever you want to believe. Well said. Plus, quite easy to identify someone with sauce. It's, sometimes it's hard for me, but not very often. Usually I can look at someone and right away I know the muscles have a much fuller, rounder look, just a fuller look. Because you can see the biggest difference you can tell when people go off steroids. The first thing you notice is they sort of deflate, like the air was let out of a balloon, like psh, they shrink down. They're just not that. They don't have that bursting fullness. They don't have that hardness, the vascularity. With a lot of white guys, when they're on a lot of gear, they have like a reddish tint, like they have a little sunburn. That's the high blood pressure. There's a lot of dead giveaways. A lot of acne is usually a giveaway. Gyno, under the nipples, kind of clear example. You can get gyno without steroids, but if someone's all jacked and they have gyno, it's probably from steroids. Back to your mom's flip-flop. Not necessarily. Most of the time you definitely can, yeah. Some people are on this stuff and look like shit. They basically look natural, still destroying. I have seen so many guys that are on drugs, and I had a little better than average genetics. When I was natural, I look better natural than a lot of these guys do on drugs. And I didn't have spectacular genetics. They were a little above average. They weren't awesomeness, or else I would have turned pro when I went on the gear and everything. I didn't. But a lot of these guys are on gear. Even Bumstead had a famous audio clip about it, and they still look like crap. Honestly, when it comes to the whole natty or not thing, a big factor is also entertainment. Greg Doucette has got that covered. Yeah, Greg's very entertaining. Even his voice is entertaining. Some look like shit, but the quality of the skin does change if you look at it. Like they look grainy, and Greg's quite good at milking it. I mean, I wouldn't blame it at all. Yeah. Michael Hearn, don't know. He might be that 1 in a million. There are some people out there, and I'm going to get some heat for saying this, but generally speaking, African Americans, people with African ancestry, particularly from the western part of the continent of Africa, seem to have far more potential for building muscle mass than human beings from everywhere else in the world. They seem to have the best genetics. So, African Americans, I think, have maybe even a little more advantage because the horrific crime against the African American people that was committed in this country, 400 years of slavery. The slave owners bred them like animals. Like they would only let the strongest, the hardest workers breed, and the rest, some guys they would castrate. They literally treated them like cattle, like animal, the way they bred them. But that did lead to genetic advantages where, if you only let the strongest and most muscular human beings breed and no one else gets to breed, eventually you're going to have a lot more big, buff, strong people walking around. But O'Hearn, I don't know. I only say that because you just don't seem to see that many white guys who are huge and jacked without drugs. I've seen a lot of African American guys, bodybuilders, that build tremendous physiques. I mean, physiques that would be unattainable by most white guys with drugs. So I don't know. I've heard that there's a difference with the follistatin and myostatin. Again, mainly dealing with the western part of Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, places like that. And there are genetic variations among humans. We're all one species. We're all humans. Homo sapiens sapiens. But just like dogs are all one species and humans are all one species, there's a lot of different breeds of dogs, from 3-pound Chihuahuas to 200-pound Cane Corsos and Mastiffs and all these things. I don't know about Mike. I really don't. Some people's skin looks like rotting. I love Greg. We're talking about Greg Doucette, right? I think that's the Greg we're talking about. Where is Derek, bro? Which Derek? Derek Lunsford? He's in Tampa, Florida, isn't he? Love his thoughts, ideas, as well as a Jay's podcast. Oh, yeah. So we're talking about Coach Greg Doucette. Ask Mike O'Hearn. We did ask him. I actually had him on with Dr. T. This is probably like going back 3 years when we were doing the video for MD. We had Mike O'Hearn on as a guest, and that was because Dr. T had met him at an expo or something overseas. And, but I've known Mike on and off many, over 30 years anyway. But he claimed, he still maintains that he's drug-free. He's never used steroids. He's on TRT now. He has a major sponsor. It's a TRT clinic, a company that provides TRT services to men. So he doesn't claim to be taking nothing. He claims he's on TRT now. Was he on stuff the rest of the time? I don't know, man. So it's better than her lying. Oh, yeah, the female bodybuilder that Kenny went up to. I also want to show you more plates, more dates for a second, because he hasn't made a whole career out of it the way Kenny has. Kenny's whole shtick is Natty or Not. He's the Natty or Not guy. You see him at an expo with a microphone, you know what he's going to ask you. But this is Derek for more plates, more dates. I don't know Derek's name. Does anyone know Derek's last name? I'm sure somebody does. So he is huge on YouTube. He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's been on with Chris Williamson. So he's mainstream. He's got over 2 million subscribers. He has done, I'm going to show you the most popular videos he's done. His thing that he's done many times has been exposing celebrities. Like he talks about Liver King here, Joe Rogan. I'm trying to find where he's asking about, I don't even know who Connor Murphy is. V-Shred, I'm glad he made fun of him. But he's had videos about whether certain celebrities. So Christian Bale as Batman, he does videos speculating as to what he thinks these celebrities were using for their cycles. Because, as you know, most celebrities will not come out and say that they're on steroids or that they use steroids to prepare for a movie role. Here you can see Brad Pitt's steroid cycle. And yeah, I believe he was on steroids in Fight Club in Troy. I believe he was. He did one for, I know Liver King was, we've been through that. He did one on like Henry Cavill, Jonah Hill. So he does, here's one on Zac Efron, because Zac Efron he definitely was on gear for that movie where he played Kerry Von Erich. That was obvious to me. He's done, so anytime a celebrity is on, it makes this transformation for a movie role. He exposes them. Like Dwayne Johnson will never tell you he's on gear. Dwayne Johnson is never going to admit to being on gear, when I think anybody with a set of eyes can look at Dwayne Johnson and say, yes, because you see Johnson go up and down for movie roles. To me, it looks like anywhere from a 20 to 40 pound difference sometimes between certain roles. He'll go up and down. He can manipulate his weight based on gear. I mean, look at Batista. Batista has been huge in movies, and you see Batista walking around sometimes. He's a pretty thin guy. That's like a 50, 60 pound difference when he's on and off. I'm sure the eating and the training has a lot to do with it too. But yeah, celebrities use gear, especially when they're getting ready for a movie role, because the camera, they're going to be on these freaking IMAX screens that are 70 feet wide, 100 feet wide. They want to look great. I have no problem with celebrities being on gear, and I understand why they're not going to admit to it. A lot of them are trying to sell you something, some weird, wacky app or program to get in shape. So yeah, they're being dishonest, they're being deceitful, but I don't expect celebrities to ever come out and say they're on gear. They might say, I tried it one time and I didn't like it. That's like another way to deflect it. Plus it's illegal. Yeah, so steroids are illegal in the United States without a prescription. You can get a prescription from a lot of clinics for TRT, which, it's just supposed to be enough steroids, testosterone. I even get DECA. I only use 100 milligrams of DECA a week, which is in my bodybuilding heyday, I was using more like 600 to 800 milligrams of DECA a week. In the test, I'm on 280 to 300 a week. I think I just bumped it up because summer's coming. But yeah, you're supposed to be using minimal amounts for that, not a whole cycle. And illegal. If you're on, there's no legal way to be on things like Tren and Equipoise, and there's no clinic that's going to prescribe those to you. Mike is the guy that tore his pec. Oh, you're helping me. You're helping me figure out which Tren twin is the other. I don't personally mind them content wise, but yeah, bodybuilding wise, honestly, I don't think it's joking. But yeah, I don't know which one was a joke. Why would he come out and start saying I'm on this, stat, and that, and then all of a sudden go, no, I'm just kidding. I think the first thing he said was actually the truth, and then he backpedaled because of the reaction that he got. I don't mind the Tren twins. I don't know why they bother me. Maybe it's because they sound so dumb. I mean, Sullick. Once I actually heard Sullick and I watched a couple of his videos, I'm like, this young man. You guys, people get mad if I call him a kid, but I call a lot of younger people kids because I'm 55. But yeah, Sam is very well spoken. He's very articulate. He's very intelligent. He studied engineering. I don't know if he still does. The Tren twins, they just come across to me as just dopes, morons. I mean, just the way they speak. But whatever. Everyone can't be a genius. People lie. I can't stand again. To be honest, don't say anything. Yeah, I will show you one more because this actually does kind of have me concerned. This is this is another Natty or Not that Kenny K.O had a video of, and he does short versions or teasers on his Instagram. So let me do this. Share this instead. Okay. Make sure I'm sharing it. And here we go. So this is Ashton Hall, who has gone very, very viral lately.
Natural, or is he just another social media liar? Let's dive into the evidence. I'm gonna assume majority of you clicked onto the video and know who I'm talking about, but just in case some of you don't recognize the name, he is the guy that was going insanely viral and still is on social media for his morning routine, where he does an absurd amount of stuff over a time frame that makes absolutely zero sense. But it brings into question, because on his routine, you didn't see anywhere him pinning or taking certain pills to achieve the physique you are currently seeing on screen. So it brings into question, is this actually attainable naturally?
What an idiot.
Is Ashton Hall truly
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so that's Ashton Hall. Now, Ashton Hall, I don't know if he is natural. He's got insane genetics. I know he was a very high-level athlete, a running back for years, and great genetics. Whether or not he's natural or not, he has spectacular genetics. Very few of us, certainly not me, could look like that no matter what we took. The structure, the round, full muscle bellies everywhere. It's a look that most men just cannot get. Doesn't matter how many PEDs you use or abuse. You have to have great genetics to look like that. Like I said, you have to have genetics to be very, very tall, right? No one ever seems to argue that point. You can't just take a drug to become 6'11". You're either born with that potential or you're not. The muscle bellies, the structure, that's all determined in the womb. There's nothing you can do to change that. You can become a bigger, better version of yourself, but we're all limited. We all have our genetic limitations, and some people's genetic limitations are much higher. The bar is a lot higher than there are for others. Let's see. Mike knew his pec was going to tear as he lowered the bar. There was going to be no other outcome in that situation. No, we're talking about the Tren twins. Again, stupid. He was benching like, what was he trying to do? 600 pounds, I think. It was at least 500. I think it was 600 pounds. Why would anybody who considers himself a bodybuilder, he competed as a bodybuilder in a bodybuilding competition. I think he won. He looked pretty good. But why would you be trying to bench 600 pounds for a single when you should know, every pec tear I've ever heard about in my life has been from somebody going very, very heavy on the bench press. And sometimes it doesn't even matter if you warmed up enough, if you're using good form or not. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. It's too much for that tendon, and pop, there it goes. and that is a big muscle to tear. I mean, I tore the longest muscle in the body, the quadricep, and that sucked. But tearing a pec has to suck pretty bad too. Victor Santiago, natty or not, you still got to work. Back. Hello, everyone, non-IFBB Pro. Explain that nickname or that handle. Are you a non-IFBB Pro? Oh, non-IFBB Bro. Bro. Wow. I watch pec tear compilation videos for leisure. I mean, it's awful. It's, I tell people, I still have a decent chest, but in my heyday, my chest was pretty freaking crazy. And I didn't do barbell bench presses. I did them as a young guy for a little while. And then I'd say by the time I was 21 or so, I had completely gotten away from them, and I was just using dumbbells. I would do a barbell for inclines, but for flat, dumbbells I got a better contraction, a better stretch, better pump. It just, and I was better at them. I was stronger on dumbbells. The bench, I always lagged behind. There were always a lot of other guys stronger on me on the bench press, but when it came to dumbbells, I could hang with a lot of the big dudes at the gym. Why does it even matter? I like natty nuts because I see kids with superior physiques. I'm like, pause, that's not natural while they claim natty. Well, I mean, so there's two ways of people getting clout now, and they're both dishonest, or they're not dishonest. One is to be on gear and claim to be natural, and then you're getting credit for something that you shouldn't be getting credit for because you're claiming that you built this spectacular physique completely without drugs. And yeah, you're also giving people unrealistic expectations and hope for what they can achieve naturally when you didn't even achieve that naturally. So you're a piece of crap. No argument there. Then there's the other guy that's complete opposite. He's on gear and he's completely honest and transparent about it to the point where he's always sharing his cycles with you. Why can that be a bad thing? Bad thing because, hey, what if you're seeing the spectacular physique and you either don't know or you want to be in denial that genetics are the main reason he looks like that? Yes, he would not be as big and full and the muscles wouldn't have that hard look, but he would still look way better than almost everybody else naturally. The best guys on drugs would still look pretty damn good without drugs. If they trained very hard, ate all the meals, got their rest, they wouldn't be as big, but they would still have pretty damn great physiques. God, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, I was going to say that was bad because they're going to get people imitating their cycles. They're going to get people saying, okay, they're going to take notes. So he uses this, that, and the other. Okay, I'm going to go out and get that. I'm going to hop on that, and I'll look just like that. Again, that's like thinking you're going to do, Ronnie Coleman's back workout, Dorian Yates's back workout, and you're going to get a back like Dorian or Ronnie. You're not. You're never going to have a back like that. It doesn't matter how many drugs you use. Doesn't matter how hard you train. You never can have a back like that. That was, the backs on those two men were so rare that that's why we're talking about them. There's not many people where you can name a body part and say who had the best back in bodybuilding. And there's only a few names that come to mind. Dorian always comes to mind. Ronnie Coleman always comes to mind. Some people will remember Lee Haney. Joe Stubbs from Bahamas had a great back. But the point is they had awesome genetics for building all those muscles of the back. They trained very, very hard. They used plenty of PEDs. But you could train just as hard as they did. You could use all the PEDs they did. Your back is never going to look like Dorian Yates' back in his prime or Ronnie Coleman's back in his prime. Never, never, never. You guys going to argue that one? Come on. You can't argue that one. Social media has pretty much destroyed the concept of privacy, created insane levels of expectations. Yeah, we feel we're entitled to know everything about the pros, the top amateurs, the influencers. We should know everything they eat, every drug they take, because they owe us that. They owe us honesty and transparency, but they don't. Now, that Ashton Hall guy we were just looking at, he claims natural. I don't think he's natural. He sells an app. He's also massively huge on YouTube. I think he's got, there you go. I know I just saw his video. Ashton Hall, Natty, Ashton Hall. So Ashton Hall has, hang on, guys. Get rid of that. So he has 3.5 million subscribers. Good Lord. Good Lord. And what is he selling? Let's see. He has his coaching. He has another channel that's all about coaching. He sells supplements. I know he has an app. I think it's in the comments. So he's making a lot of money off this. workout system and supplements and his training app and all that, when I don't think he's natural. But so if he is lying, it's completely, burn and build. There's the app right there. He's got the, does this take you to it? No. So that's the app at the top. So he's clearly capitalizing on his amazing physique and doing very well. Oh, I bet for spamming a little bit. I didn't even share it. I need to share that. Sorry. Well, we'll leave him up there because he's the guy that's got the morning routine where he spends like 2 hours drinking this expensive bottled water and dunking his face in cold water, scrubbing his face with banana peels. And yeah, that's not why he looks like that. It's not the banana peels. Oh, your mom's flip-flop. You don't need to apologize, man. I go live so I can interact with you guys. And if it's the same couple guys that want to keep posting in the chat, everyone's invited to. Most fake natties get them round, striated cap delts. Yeah, so I want to show you guys something because so the guy Zach at my gym who, Kenny K.O took to task in his video. I want to show you what he really looks like. Those pictures that he posted were, he's good at manipulating the angles like I am and the lighting. He's got a better physique. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's just lighting and stuff like that. But the reason Zach looks the way he does is he's a genetic phenomenon. Oh, this is it's the wrong Zach. My bad. Hang on. I go to Zmore. That was a different Zach. Zmore. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is the Zach I know. Let me show you. Okay. So this is the guy that Kenny K.O said there's zero chance of this guy being natural. Now, he looks awesome, but this is kind of an illusion. He is not as big as you think he is. This is just 3 days ago. He's 5'11". He's only about 200 pounds now, 205 pounds. For a guy that's close to 6 foot to be only, 200 pounds or so, it's not very big. He's got tiny joints, tiny waist. If you stood next to him, you see he's not massive. He just has beautiful shape, very gifted shape. You can see on his inner thigh there, he's got his patch for his diabetes, his insulin pump. There he is posing. So yeah, round cap delts. Can a natural build those? It's rare, but to say nobody can do this naturally, I don't know, man. I had pretty good delts when I was natural. They weren't quite that round, but my genetics weren't as good as Zach's. So to say that there's no way he can be natural, and then there was a whole argument about the insulin, which, like I said, he tried to correct people, and a lot of type 1 diabetics tried to correct people in the comments, and they insisted the fact that he's diabetic and he uses insulin to stay alive. They think he's using more than he does, which he doesn't. But I just want to show you, he's not as massive as the pictures in the thumbnail that guy was alluding to. The pictures that Kenny K.O showed. He's not huge at all. Let's see what the King of Naturals, Breaking Barriers. I don't know what that is. Oh, he's picked his first show. He's never even competed yet. He's gonna do his first show in the summertime. There he is with Arnold. All right, so seen some crazy Europeans. A lot of Eastern Europeans have really good genetics. Why? I got no clue, but I kind of hope it's true because I'm Polish by blood. Well, your mom's flip-flop. So let's see. My mother's grandfather was from Warsaw, Poland, so he was Polish. And my grandmother, Grandma Michaelovich, she was from Ukraine. And when we did the DNA test, my dad's half came back all England and Wales and shit like that. And the other side was, it said Moldova, Romania, and Western Ukraine. So I guess technically I have some Eastern European genetics too. Ukraine and Poland would be considered Eastern. The problem is their bones are usually thick as fuck too. Talking about Eastern Europeans. Yeah, I mean, the ideal situation you want small joints, light bones, but you want that good structure with the wide clavicles and narrow hips. You don't want the arms to be too long or too short. Bone structure is immutable. You can't change your bone structure, although they have limb lengthening surgery now. But let's just forget about that and say you can't change your structure. Your muscle bellies are what they are. That's why you've been training your biceps for a couple of years. Either you have a peak to your biceps or you don't. There's really nothing you can do to build this really cool peak if you don't have one. And people that have a peak biceps, they don't need to do anything special. There's no special exercise like preacher curls that made them have a peak. If someone's genetically has a bicep peak, they could do nothing but straight bar barbell curls and their biceps would have a peak. That's the shape of the muscle. Derek's last name is more plates more. Oh, we were talking about the other Derek. Yeah, I don't think that's his real last name. And I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Derek because he's a very, very bright guy. He owns his own TRT clinic. The fact that he was, invited onto shows like Joe Rogan's podcast, that's huge. That is huge. So, he's putting out a lot of knowledge. He's a super smart guy. When the Sam Sulek Tim Wilkins drama came out, literally only the old heads were defending Sam, as young fans don't even care. No, that's not true. I saw a lot of his fans blasting Tim all over the place. A lot of them. But, yeah. I mean, the old heads, I got heat for saying that I could see Tim's point of view. And, yeah, you have to be careful with your delivery. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. When you come out and use words like garbage and that the tone that Tim was using was sort of inflammatory, sounded sort of angry towards Sam. Because his kids, and I have, my son's 25 years old. He's someone that would be a Sam Sulek fan. He's not. He doesn't have anything against Sam. He's just really not a fan of anybody. I get why he would be upset that kids would see this youngster and look up to him. I understand why the kids do. It's someone they can relate to. He's close to their age. He's got the curly hair and the hat like they do and the bad skin like they do. He likes to eat junk food. And I've gotten heat for saying that because apparently he's cleaned up his diet quite a bit. And the old videos where he's eating crap, supposedly those are all old videos. And stop sharing that. We don't need to keep Zach up there much longer. Sulek is way more annoying than the Tren twins. I don't find him annoying. I mean, he's soft-spoken. He's got a relaxing, calm voice. Maybe it's because I grew up around. I had a friend group that were all very intellectual. I had like two friend groups. One was just the party kids, and we would go out, ride around cars, drinking and driving on the weekends. And the other kids were like the nerds. Two of them became doctors. One of them is an engineer. Let's just say they were all very, very bright young guys. They all went on to good careers. Sam reminds me of that because he's very well spoken. When I hear people like the Tren twins, the way they speak, they just sound so inarticulate, so ignorant. It's like they can't even explain what they do. They only look the way they do because of great genetics. They love to train, and they take gear. That's it. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. Anybody with great genetics, and the Tren twins have very, very good genetics, make no mistake about it. They don't have to do anything special. As long as they take some gear and they eat a good amount of food and they train pretty hard, they're going to look better than pretty much everybody else. It's not fair, but life's not fair. Is TRT therapy healthy, safe? Of course, recommended by doc. Yes. So TRT therapy is only prescribed legitimately for people who need it. So these are people that were born hypogonadal, meaning they never produced enough testosterone ever. And usually that's identified by the time they're adolescents, and the family doctor or whoever, an endocrinologist, gets them on the proper hormones. Otherwise, they're not really going to have much of a puberty. They're not going to grow to their proper height. So they'll get them on the proper hormones and stuff. The other people who use TRT, the vast majority, are either guys like myself. By the time I was 40, I had destroyed my body's ability to produce its own testosterone. So I had to either could stay on a cycle forever or be on TRT. I went on TRT and I still kept cycling for many more years after that. I don't deny that. So you'll have those guys who probably could keep producing their own testosterone into their 40s and 50s in sufficient amounts if they hadn't effed it all up by abusing steroids like the way I did, destroyed their HPTA, the pituitary, what's the H stand for? Pituitary something axis. I don't know why I can't think of it right now. But you've destroyed your body's ability to make tests. Then you have older guys who just naturally, our testosterone as men decreases as we age. So it's at its peak somewhere between the ages of like 16 and 24. It varies, but let's just say around 18 to 20 is when most young men have their very highest natural levels of testosterone. You're horny all the time. You put on muscle pretty easily. You have great endurance. You have energy. you're full of piss and vinegar. You're young, dumb, and full of cum. That's when you have your highest testosterone. And then by the time you're in your late 20s, it's going to start declining. By the time you're in your 40s, 50s, it's probably half of what it was at its peak. And a lot of guys, it goes below what's considered normal range. So that's this spectrum. For most doctors, most people most professionals will say anything between 300 and 800 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone is normal. And if you're below 300, you can be a candidate for testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT. And that TRT, when it's administered, they do regular blood tests for a few months. They'll do it like 2 or 3 times at least, and they want to see where it's bringing you to. So you start off and your let's say your test level was 250. They put you on TRT. They try giving you 200 milligrams of test sip a week. Time they test you, well, now your testosterone is at 1,000, and they say, well, we don't want it that high. Let's cut you back to 175 milligrams a week. So then you're supposed to manipulate it that way. Take that, and they arrive at a certain dose for you. That's what they'll prescribe, just enough testosterone every month for you to use in those amounts to hit that level consistently. So you're always in that range of a healthy, high level range. They don't want you. So if you're 300, they don't want you to be at 400. That's not much improvement. So usually they want you somewhere around 500, 600, 700. I like to be more like 1,000, but that's me. So when you're in a high normal range, it's very healthy. It's very safe. The only concern that they have is your estrogen levels might spike too high because your body's always trying to balance out the hormones, in which case, most times, they will prescribe you an anastrozole or some other aromatase inhibitor. I am prescribed one. I actually stopped taking it because it has a lot of negative side effects. It crashes your good cholesterol. It also makes you more susceptible to muscle tears. There are downsides to estrogen blocker, or I should say aromatase inhibitors. So that's why. But overall, you'll be healthier on TRT than you would be without it, because having low testosterone puts you at risk for a lot of conditions and things too. You don't want to have overly high testosterone, because now you have to worry about high blood pressure, estrogen spiking, heart disease, plaque in the arteries, things like that. But you don't want it too low either. So being in a high normal range for tests is actually optimal health. So TRT therapy is healthy and it is safe. Ryan says, Sam's chill, sees a dog in the gym, pets it, proceeds to do the next set. Yeah, I like, what's funny is my wife did CrossFit for over 10 years. CrossFit gyms almost always let dogs in there, which is crazy to me. You'd have to be a well-behaved dog because they're throwing weights around and jumping up on boxes. You don't want a dog running in front of you when you're about to throw a weight down. But CrossFit gyms usually did allow dogs in there. For some, it's actually better to be on a bit of test. With age, your natural test will decline and start feeling worse. Sometimes it's definitely better. It's not completely healthy. It is completely healthy if you're staying within normal ranges. It is completely healthy. There are no adverse side effects. They used to say, there was a myth for many years that being on TRT increased your chances of prostate cancer. So I was fortunate enough to be a patient of a guy named Dr. Abraham Morgentaler. Look him up. Morgentaler, T-A-L-E-R, Morgentaler, it's one name. He teaches at Harvard Medical School. He literally wrote the book on TRT. He wrote like 3 best-selling books about it. And he was the first one to do studies that debunked the myth that testosterone or TRT, normal levels of testosterone would increase your risk of prostate cancer. The result that actually came from a very flawed study that was done 30 or 40 years ago, maybe longer, in like somewhere in Scandinavia. And everyone just said, oh, geez. It's true that if you have prostate cancer, if you have it already, taking testosterone will cause the tumor to grow more. So if you have prostate cancer, your doctor will never have you on TRT. But for everyone else, it is safe. It is healthy. And, I'm not selling you on TRT. I'm on it. I use a place called Frontline Alternative, the same place Ronnie Coleman uses, Chef Rush uses. But, I don't get any kickback or anything like that. Modern day Spartan, always been muscular, repeated lots of shows. As obviously I wouldn't be IPV pro and larger MPC. So stay natural and basically look the same 56. Did my 20s. Yeah. Modern day Spartan. So that's one massive advantage of staying natural is you're never going to lose. As long as you keep training and keep eating and living the bodybuilder lifestyle, you're not going to lose that much. You can be in your 50s like you are. So I'll be 56 in September. I'm nowhere near as big as I was even 10 years ago. when I was on cycles, a gram to 2 grams a week was very, very commonplace for me up until I'd say like just maybe like 3 years, not even 3 years ago is when I started coming away from all that and going to true TRT. But, I tell people who are natural, like my son's natural and probably stay natural. I don't know. He's only 25. All the muscle that you have as a natural bodybuilder, it's yours to keep. Whereas when you're enhanced, part of what you have is rented. You're going to have to give it back when you're done with the steroids. And you're going to have to come off the cycling because nobody can stay on high doses of gear, the doses required to be freaky big forever without some adverse health effects. Your heart, your liver, your kidneys, something's going to go. Something's going to go. Nobody can stay on a lot of gear indefinitely without something happening. And we see people that they sort of flaunt it like I'm going to live forever. And, we've had poor Boston Lloyd. I say poor because he was 29 years old. And I'm a dad. And I have, my daughter in a few days turns 31. He didn't even get to be as old as my daughter. And he has a son. That son's he's going to grow up without his dad because, Boston pushed the limit. And he thought he was going to live forever and the steroids weren't going to hurt him. And yeah, it was actually a fat burning peptide or some weird thing that he took that ended up really destroying his was it kidney failure that he went into? Yeah, but the steroids didn't help, guys. They were not helping him. And Rich Piana, I don't know all the stuff he was into, maybe recreational drugs too, but I'm sure being on all this gear he was on and being that big, I'm sure that contributed to his early death. Sullick is annoying. Well, maybe if I watched all his videos, I'd be annoyed. I don't know. The guy who tore his back stupidly did it 2 weeks after their competition. Really dumb. It was Peck, I think you mean? So you're talking about the Tren twin Mike who tore his pec. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for him to be trained that heavy anyway, but when your body fat is very low, that is a very bad, especially when you're in contest condition, if you're taking things like Winstrol that sort of weaken the joints and the tendons, and you're on anti-estrogen, you're on the aromatase inhibitors too. Those weaken the tendons. So you're taking substances that are going to make you more susceptible to a muscle tear. You have less fat and water as cushioning. It's a recipe for disaster to train super, super heavy when you're very, very lean. Most guys don't because they figured out it's a bad idea. Oh, you're saying the Tren twins have more potential for strength than bodybuilding? They're influencers. They can do whatever they want. Been watching for 3 years, bro. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Sam. Trains in the gym and is done with the Tren twins to take Tren for God knows what. Ernst humbled him recently. Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I find Sam's videos sort of repetitive. You're right. It's the same pattern. But people like to know what they're going to get. It's comforting for a lot of people to know what they're going to get. It's always different. He's always saying something different in the car. The workouts, yeah, I mean, we all train the same few body parts over and over and over again. And then he usually will take his shirt off and do a few poses. So it's a very repetitive formula that Sam Sullick has followed. But the fact that he's got millions and millions of subscribers and views on YouTube, it tells you that people like this. This is what they like to watch. They love his content. So you might find it annoying, but there are millions and millions of other people who thoroughly enjoy it. I promise you there's a lot of young guys. They watch that before they watch Sam's newest video before they go off to the gym, and it gives them a little bit of motivation, inspiration, whatever, to train harder themselves. And again, I love the fact that he doesn't talk about his gear use. Twins also train really weird, like not hard. They don't really push themselves. Well, we've all know I always have to say I'm old because I've been around gyms for so long. I've been going to gyms since the 1980s, and I always saw guys who didn't seem like they trained that hard and they had great genetics. This is what I figured out eventually, but they were massive. And then I'm thinking, why I'm training so much harder than them? I don't look like that. And eventually, when I found out that a lot of people were on gear, I said, oh, it's because they're on gear. Then when I got on gear myself, and I did grow, I made pretty good progress, but not, the guys who look amazing, like, geez, they're hyper responders to gear. They have great genetics in terms of the structure and the muscle bellies and all that, but they also have great response to gear. That's another type of genetics that I don't understand. I'm sure there is a valid scientific explanation for it with the way the receptors in the muscles or something, the muscle nuclei. There's got to be a reason for it that I'm not qualified to answer. But those people always have a look that's unattainable just because they're genetic phenomenons. And I've always said they're rare, these people. You can put me in a very crowded, I walk into a crowded gym with, let's say there's 200 people on the workout floor, 200 people all working out hard. Let's say I could see all their physiques, no hoodies. Everyone's got tank tops on or something. I'd be like, that guy, that girl. I could point out the 2 or 3 people with great genetics out of 100 or 2 like that. It's easy because they have a whole different look than everybody else. It's not because they train harder or they train longer. Yes, they are dedicated. Yes, not everyone, very few people do have the dedication to train hard for years and eat good food for years. But out of all the people that do, only a select lucky few are going to look phenomenal. And they're going to look that way because of their genetics. Boom. All right. Can I drop the mic? The mic's over here. In my opinion, it's a shame people like Seabone. Genetics are absolutely insane. It's a shame he hopped on when he was 18. He could have got 10 Olympias if he would have trained longer natural. No, I actually disagree with that. I think he could have kept going on and winning Olympias regardless. He quit while he was ahead because he wanted to retire when he was still young. And he just turned 30. Yeah, he just turned 30. Am I right? Yes. He retired with 6 Olympia titles at the age of 29. As good as Summerfield is and improved Ruffin and Urs and Ramon, I still think Seabum could have kept winning if he wanted to. But he got out. He's got a daughter now. He's got, bum energy. He's got making great money with part ownership in the supplement companies, the Gymshark clothing company. He said, why am I going to bother doing this? I still think he might come back and compete again in a year or two. He might get that itch, but for now, he's very good doing what he's been doing. Greg said the same color cast, and he had hyperresponders anomaly. I mean, Arnold took D-ball at 15. Yeah. Even if he hadn't, though, Arnold was always going to be Arnold. If he had waited a couple of years, he would have had that physique. He had almost all the mass he ever got or needed by the time he was like 19. If you look at pictures of Arnold when he was like only 19, 20 years old, he didn't really get much bigger after that. He got more refined, better muscle quality, definition, separations between the muscles. Everything. He was sort of like a diamond in the rough. So the diamond didn't get much smaller. It just got a lot more refined and detailed. But that's someone with awesome genetics, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he was competing probably around the same weight by the time he was 20 as he did when he was winning all the Olympias, which he started winning Olympias by age 23. He was. We talk about Sullick being only 23, but Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Olympia at 23 years old. Mr. Olympia, not classic physique Olympia. Now, arguing with the argument, of course, I'm not going to have back like Dorian, but I'm not going to train less hard. Just like me. Oh, yeah. How if you don't try? I mean, I try to say this to everybody and it's very hard because especially as men, we're very competitive with each other. We have egos. We want to be the alpha. It's comparing ourselves to other men just comes perfectly natural because we've been conditioned to do that from day one, pretty much as men, especially in the U.S. Maybe it's not the same now as when I was a kid. Maybe the pressure isn't as bad as it used to be, but yes, we're competitive. You want to have more muscles. You want to be stronger, the bigger penis, to make more money and drive a flashier car and have a hotter girl. You want to have all the best of everything, better than every other guy. That's just how we're wired as males. And it's natural for us to look at another guy with a better physique or, especially as bodybuilders, we walk into a place, whether you want to or not, subconsciously you're like, is anybody here bigger than me? Is anybody here got a better physique than me? Subconsciously or consciously, you're doing that every time you walk into a room full of people. You're sizing up all the other guys. So yeah, but I tell people don't do that because comparing yourself to other people constantly like that, you're never going to be happy. Someone's always going to be bigger than you, a better physique than you, have a hotter girl than you, maybe make more money than you. But when it comes to bodybuilding, focus on yourself, focus on improving and becoming a better and better version of yourself, because regardless of whether you can ever look like Samson Daudo or Chris Bumstead or Ronnie Coleman or Dorian Yates, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's all about becoming a better and better version of you. Can you keep improving? Look at the picture of you when you started. Do you look better than that? Look at a picture from you from 3 years ago. Do you look better than that? Look at a picture from you from 6 months ago. Do you look better then? Or do you look better now than you did then? Obviously, as you get older, you might look worse. That's me. But for most of you guys who aren't quite in my age range yet, you can still be improving all the time. There's always something you can improve on. You can get stronger in a lift. You can do more reps with the lift. You can improve a certain body part. You can add muscle mass. You can get leaner. There are always things that you can do to be a better you. And that's what really needs to matter instead of worrying about everybody else. Focus on yourself and you'll be so much happier. It's hard, man. I know it's hard. Trust me. I'm the king of envying other people and comparing myself to other people. I've been doing it my whole life, and it's a constant struggle every day to say, no, stop doing that. Be happy, be grateful for what you have, and focus on yourself. Focus on getting better. That's all you can do, because you can't turn yourself into somebody else, and you can't always be better than somebody else at this or that aspect. Train to failure is law. I think so, but there's studies that say you don't have to go all the way to failure. Sure, good. Well, people in the gym say I don't train that hard. Always getting weird ass looks when I train. Yeah, if you train as hard as you possibly can, right away you're in the minority at almost any gym. There's very few gyms that are really stacked with hard training people. I mean, I go to a gym, Bayshore Athletic Club in Braintree, Mass. It's one of the top gyms in New England. We have a lot of competitors there. We have a lot of people who don't compete, but they train very hard. They take their training very seriously. We have competitive bodybuilders, classic physique, the women's divisions. We have powerlifters there. There's a CrossFit gym there where the people, it's a separate gym, but it's part of our gym. They compete at the regional and some of them national level. So that's a rarity, but most gyms, you're not, if you're training, busting your ass in there, you are in the minority. So you're already several steps ahead. Dude is not natural. Oh, you're talking about Zach. I believe he is, and I know him very well. I take him to be a very sincere, honest young man. If you think I'm a moron for believing him, you can think that, but I genuinely believe Zach. I see him almost every day. Christian sees him more often than I do because Christian goes later most of the time. I believe Zach is natural. You don't have to believe me. Yeah, we're all entitled to our opinion. Yeah. It's possibly pinned to use insulin before 2021 expedited diabetes. No, I mean, I anything's possible. You know, I didn't even meet Zach until like a year ago. He just started coming to our gym. I don't know where he was training before, but immediately I assumed, first time I saw him, I thought he was on gear because he had a great physique, you know, the full round muscles. I just assumed he was on gear. Eventually, Christian started talking to him. And Christian's like, Dad, you know that Zach, he's natural. I said, what? So I started talking to him, and either he's an awesome liar or I don't know what to tell you. He's doing 2 different drug-tested shows later this year in the summer. So ANBF is one. I think he's doing OCB as well. His goal is to compete, turn pro in one of those, and then he's going to be in the WNBF Worlds. That's a pro natural bodybuilding organization, and these organizations all test strictly. So if Zach fails a test and he's on steroids, I'll come back and say, you guys were right. I was a sucker for believing him. Or if he passes, I can say, you see, I told you so, unless you just say, well, he beat the test. Mayor Bodybuilding Dan's been around even longer than me. He's a little bit older than me. So when Dan says this, listen, no drugs will compensate for genetics. It's so true. If you have great genetics, you add drugs in, you're going to be spectacular. If you have average genetics, you take a bunch of drugs, you look pretty good. Nobody's going to be like, oh my God, wow. You're not going to be that impressive. And if you have awful genetics, you can take drugs and still not look anywhere near as good as most natural people who are really dedicated. Both my parents are Polish, so my grandparents, some Eastern European genetics were on. Haha, nice. Yeah, can you tell? Can you see? Because, for many years, up until the Ukraine war, I just said I was half Russian. That's what I always used to say, even though my grandfather was from Poland, but my grandmother was from Ukraine. Ukraine was part of the USSR, the CCC, the Soviet republics. They all were. So I used to just say Russia. But once the war started 3 years ago, then I had to make this distinction. Instead of saying I'm Russian, I would say Ukrainian. But the fact is, Grandpa was from Poland. Grandma was from Ukraine. So Zach has been training only since he was about 15. but he was doing gymnastics and calisthenics in his room, like, thousands of push-ups, sit-ups, shit like that. He was very muscular, but he shows pictures of when he was like 15, 16, and it's just big as I ever was on gear before he ever even touched it. It's your life. Take what you want. Sam's 23. You can drink and be drafty. He's not a kid. I mean, when I was 23 and I was Sam Sulek's age, I had already been married for 2 years. I was out in California with my wife. We had we wouldn't have our first child until I was 24. So 23, I didn't have any kids yet, but by 24, I had our daughter, Marisa, was born. So yeah, he's not a kid. he's a grown-ass man. Mayor Bodybuilding says, she's 59. Yeah, so I'm 55. My test is 450, not jack, but I have wood. Well, wood's important, man. Zion, okay, we're on check in, brother. Another strong day. Yeah. Yeah, we're actually going to leave in about an hour. My son has an appointment with his gastroenterologist. My son has ulcerative colitis, which he manages. He's on the same medication for it that Carlos Thomas Jr. takes. It's called mesalamine. Lately, he's been off of it. He's been off it because he doesn't like the side effects. It gives him headaches. It makes him tired. He manages it with diet and trying to remain stress-free. But we're meeting with the gastro guy today and checks in. I'm actually going to look into something I saw in a commercial. I saw a commercial for a new medication. What was it? I'll have to ask. I told him it was a medication that shows promise for actually curing ulcerative colitis. I'm going to actually talk to the doctor and see if he wants to try that. It would be awesome if he could cure his colitis. But this does concern me. Dan says he's 59 and has 450. So my son's testosterone, they hadn't tested his hormones in any of his annual physicals. So the last time he went to get a physical, I said, you know what? While you're there, ask him, because they're going to do blood work to check, your kidneys and all that good stuff. I said, ask for the hormone panel. And they didn't do the free test, unfortunately. They only did the test, but it was only 500, which alarms me because 25 years old, you should be much higher than that. So might look into that medically too. We just train at 30 years and eat healthy. You could. Yeah. I think people that have high body fat using roids, stupid, same as if lean. Well, high body fat is unhealthy whether you're on steroids or not. If you're on steroids and you have high blood pressure as a result of those steroids and you're not controlling that with medication, now you're obese and you have high blood pressure, so you have increased risk factors. So yeah, I think it's worse, a little unhealthier, because you got two unhealthy things going on. But being overweight, despite that thing where they say healthy at any size, you're not healthy at any size. Obese people are not as healthy as people who are at a healthy weight. So if you're a woman and you're 5'2" and 110 pounds, you're healthier than a woman who's 5'2" and 300 pounds. I don't care how healthy you think you are at 300 pounds, this 5'2" woman, you're not healthy. Stop it. Didn't know that TRT. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. You have a lot of knowledge around. You're a major asset. Vital. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. That's the biggest challenge athletes have work with, managing expectation when they go off cycle or quit PEDs entirely. Yeah, a lot of people assume they're going to keep their muscle or most of their muscle. And the amount of muscle mass people keep after cessation of steroid use, it varies. But generally speaking, this is a sweeping generalization. Most people keep about half of what they gain. So if you were 180 pounds and you got to 220 pounds with drugs, so you're on gear for a year or something. Let's say you went from 180 to 220. You gained 40 pounds. You're probably, and let's just say it was all muscle. Let's just, for ease of argument, you'll probably come down to about 200. As long as you keep training hard. If you stop training and everything, obviously you're going to lose a lot more. But if you maintain the training, the eating, you'll probably be able to keep about half of what you gain. Some people keep a little bit more. Some people lose a little bit more than that. It varies from individual, but you're not keeping everything you gained. That's what people say. Well, I'll use steroids to build the muscle. Then I'll go off and I'll just maintain it naturally. You can't maintain it naturally. That's the whole reason we use steroids. It's to maintain an unnatural amount of muscle mass that's not possible for you naturally. You're using these drugs that build the muscle and maintain the muscle. They keep you from going into the catabolic state. Drugs like Tren are widely used because you can be in a caloric deficit and still not lose muscle. Whereas natural bodybuilders, when they diet, they almost always lose muscle. They can sort of mitigate that by dieting much longer and more gradually. That's what we've been having my son do. He wasn't that big to start with, but I used to crash diet when I was a natural bodybuilder. I would go from 225 to 30 pounds fat to 180 pounds lean, but not lean enough. And I was like, what the hell happened to all that muscle? Well, I lost some muscle, but a lot of what I thought was muscle was just fat in the first place. I can hear my son. So hyper-responsive, hypersensitive. Some people get drunk on one drink. Yeah. Look at poor Len Bias was a draft pick drafted by the Boston Celtics. This is going back like 30 years or more. Supposedly a party. He didn't even get to play one game for the Celtics. He was still like in practice for the season. Went to a party and snorted one line of cocaine, had a heart attack and died. I think he was like 21 years old. Maybe C-Bum wouldn't have had to use that much gear, meaning less. I don't think he used a lot of gear. I really don't think C-Bum used a lot of gear. I bet his doses were much, much lower than what most people use. The risk of injury. I mean, he did have a lot of injuries. So I'd probably drop another video soon. Well, he drops a video several days a week, right? It's deadlift day for me. Good job. I wish I could do those. I think the obsession with nagging is just curiosity. People just looking for excuse. I think it's both, but I think for the most part, Zonic, it is looking for an excuse because, dude, this is human nature. Is we don't want to take accountability for not achieving what it is we should be achieving or we could achieve. Easy example. You don't make a lot of money. You see someone drive by in a fancy car and you're like, huh, I bet daddy gave him that money. I bet he scammed people out of that money. I bet he lied, stole for that money. You never think, wow, he took risks and he worked very hard. You believed in himself. You're not thinking that. You're immediately making excuses. That's why he's more successful than me. And when it comes to physiques, we see somebody built better than us, and immediately it's a blow to our ego. So to cushion that blow, we have to immediately start coming up with excuses. Better genetics, which is, that's an actuality. He's on gear. We need to have a reason for why that person has something that we don't, that we wish we had. That's just human nature. Sean Joseph, I still coping so much negativity. Oh, because he's successful. It's because he's very successful and he's young. Anybody who's very successful and young is going to get hated. They're just going to get slammed. And Sam, prime example. Currently using the Yates split. Trained to the absolute limit. However, doing so more volume than Dorian. Big as him. Yeah, I mean, I won't get into the whole training thing. That's a whole other video. But was DLB natural in your opinion? I believe she is. My wife, we have this every once in a while. We have this whole argument. She thinks Dana's lying, and I say no. I don't think. I know the delts were like these little pumpkin delts, but she trained her ass off. I've seen her train a few times. She trains harder than 99% of dudes. Very strong, trains past failure, great genetics, and she's not very big. Trust me, if you stand next to her, she's a little thing. She's not very big at all. Boston died from a genetic thing. No, he died from, he was using some fat-burning peptide that was experimental that had only been used in like monkeys or rats or something, and they went into kidney failure from it. He went into kidney failure. Yeah, the aortic dissection, it wasn't out of the blue. It was because he was in kidney failure. Palumbo did a whole video on it. Andrew on blood pressure wouldn't help, but he was a time bomb. 17? That's all you are? Good Lord. You are a kid. Test correlates 605, and your pain will stay the same around the same couple of years. Yeah, if you're 17, your test is probably going to stay at a high level for another at least 5, 6, 7 years. It's probably not going to start declining until your mid to late 20s, but you're good for quite a while. You should be making great gains for a while. Natty or not, girls on test Tren makes you the ultimate muscle beast, so tread carefully. Well, I have a little bit of experience with women on steroids, and they're definitely hornier than the average woman. The test makes them, horny, makes them want sex. So, yeah. The drug broke his heart. Plumbo's a disrespectful fool. I don't know. Anyway, my son's home. I'm going to take off, guys. So I'm working on some really good interviews. I'm going to get Wesley Vissers on soon. We're just trying to coordinate a time together. Working on Matt Grego, same thing. Just going to get a good time because those are two of the greatest we saw they were 1-2 at Detroit, really working on that. So that's it, guys. I appreciate you watching. Appreciate those of you who took part in the chat. And if you're watching this in the replay, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about the whole natty or not thing. Do you care about it? Why do you care? Do you not care? Why don't you care? Cool. No, I don't do those live. And it's a good thing because like the one I did with Mike Sommerfeld, the Wi-Fi kept breaking up and I lost him. There were times where I lost him for like 2 to 3 minutes. That happened twice during the interview. I was able to go in and edit those parts out. But if it's live, you guys would have been sitting there while I'm sitting there with my thumb up my ass waiting for him to get back. So, yeah, listen to Ron. Anyway, that is all, guys. Appreciate y'all watching. Keep it tuned here. Subscribe, like, share, do all that good stuff. And we'll see you right here next time. Peace.